Sticking with the energy space, Mandy caught up with the CEO of Vattenfall, Anna Borg, and asked her whether the Swedish energy company was starting to see costs stabilise.
I'm not so sure they have, actually. We have seen a rapid increase of cost over the last few years. That is due to the financial development and inflation, of course, and increased interest rates. But it's also due to bottlenecks in the supply chains. And those are still there. So I would say that there is no sort of short-term sign that the costs will go down significantly. On the other hand, that is basically the case for almost all kinds of energy. So it's not only for offshore. But the technology is mature, the know-how is there, and the capital willing to move into the business is also there. So I think, once again, it's rather about de-risking the sort of scale-up of the technology. And it will happen. But right now, the sort of pace is slightly slower than what we would have hoped for.
Do you think that those supply bottlenecks that you just mentioned are going to get worse because of the problems that we're currently seeing in terms of navigation and freedom of passage through the Red Sea?
Yeah, that could very well be it. But I think that the challenges in the supply chain, bottlenecks for especially offshore wind, but also many other technologies, they have worsened over the last couple of years with the increasing geopolitical tension and maybe the more security focus on and around energy in general as well, which means that many of the supply chains that used to be global are not anymore and need to be rebuilt in a more regional setup, and that takes a bit of time, but it is happening.
What do you think that you can do, though, to try and solve the problem of those high costs of building the turbines? Because it's not just a case of, well, let's just wait and see if the supply bottlenecks ease up. No. I mean, what can you do in the meantime? And does the government need to intervene more in terms of subsidisation? Because it has actually held up projects, hasn't it, the high costs?
Yeah, that is true. And I think there is sort of a recalibration of the entire industry right now. But you're right, of course, you always need to look at, so how can you be even more efficient in your way of building the wind farms in order to transmitting the energy to shore, but also how to then utilize it in, for example, industry transformation. So there's still a lot of technology development going on, and the cost will go down based on that. And then, of course, once we see the economy stabilizing a bit and the interest rates maybe going back to a slightly lower level, that will also have an impact. I don't think that subsidize is necessarily the best way of building a competitive industry. I think it's more about de-risking some elements of the value chain and the industry, because then the private capital will be there. And once you have the scale, you will also see the cost coming down.